Pretty sure to work out. You don't want to get involved in the drama?
It's, you can play the paddle boarding, we got a couple nice places to go in on.
Oh, it's frozen. Hold on. Yeah. Our team's just froze up. There we go. Give me a second. Let me get back to that matrix.
Oh, God. It's real life English here.
Oh, it's heavens.
Oh, it's.
And I will share it with the board. I just, I'm very good.
Yeah.
Get it. Let me go
Oh,
with
that's.
this. Let me go with this.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure I could come back to that. Okay, President Chin, when you're ready, we're all set.
I am ready. All right, let's pull up the revised rulemaking priority list. Thank you very much for getting that done on your lunchtime.
No problem.
All right, so everybody take a gander. And the floor is open for anyone who has discussion items.
This is Board Member Patel. So we are just going to vote on which one is in high, medium, low priority. But then we will, each meeting, then we are going to come back and just say like which one is, even in the high priority, which one we are going to start with, right? Like in the high priority, we would say, let's talk about DCCS, like drug supply chain and security, and then maybe the remote dispensing site, or you know what I mean? Or are we going to number that time, or this one in, I mean, I understand there's a high, medium, and low priority, but then is it going to be, we are going to put the high priority in the high priority, you know? So if you see the high priority, there is a 4 or 5 different sections, you know, topics we included right now.
I did not see this coming back to every board meeting to pick things because there's a process for how rules are already managed by the board staff, but I will defer to board staff about how or specifically Staff Member Runyon as the policy analyst.
Also, the cold drug storage is in both, like high and the medium. Is that by mistake, or we are going to talk about?
Oh, sorry, I just missed it there. I'll take it out. I'm so sorry. I struck it down here. I'll fix that version in your
No
team.
worries,
Sorry.
no worries.
Yeah, it's not in yes, it's definitely in high, so no
Yeah.
medium.
I was like, yes, it's high, but we don't want to talk every time.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Thanks.
So I think that what will be occurring is that the at pre-board meetings, the board president, the policy analyst, the compliance director, the executive director, board counsel, all get together, and that's where we build the upcoming agenda. And this would be part of how you build the agenda, along with the topics to be discussed, living document that's in your board resources folder. I don't know. I didn't particularly see this coming back every meeting for us to drive the next board meeting as a board. But I would like to hear from Staff Member Runyon what your thoughts are, since a lot of the bulk of this work is on your position at this time.
Staff member Runyon, I believe it'll continue to be as well. These weekly rule meetings tend to be a group effort, so there are a lot of different individuals involved, and even the pharmacist consultants. And when this is a primary focus, we have that luxury, and they really depend on the input of other individuals, both in terms of drafting the rules and then reviewing them prior to submission. So really is a group effort. And I continue, I perceive that I'll continue to be involved in that. What I don't want to do is get too bogged down in trying to number the list within each individual bucket, because that would defeat the kind of the intent of rearranging these in such a manner as you see here. The board, I think, we would welcome, or staff would welcome any requests for updates, or that could be point number one. In terms of keeping track with this and ensuring that our work is mirroring board direction. Number two would be in the weekly ED report, since we typically do have weekly rule meetings as time allows and schedule allows. What we could do is just put a very, very short minor update in terms of what rules we looked at. If that would be beneficial, I think that would be a pretty small lift and easy way to keep you in touch with what we're doing. And outside of that, I don't have any sort of inclination as to what approach would be best or combination of approaches would be best. President Chin, I'll turn it back over to you if you have any further input on either of those options or both.
Thank you, Board Staff Runyon. I would really encourage a brief, and we can have it as a standing item, potentially a standing item on the agenda, but just a brief update on where the rule committee and the policy analyst are in working on these things. Because, again, you all are doing this day to day, and we come in every 2 months. And we get an agenda ahead of time, but we might not understand all the process. And so if we don't need to know all the process or how the sausage gets made, but it would be nice to have just a sense of where where the policy analyst and the committees are on each on the things you're working on. I don't want to say every individual rule, but whatever seems to make sense to keep us up to date. And also what's in the pipeline for what's going to be coming for future board meetings. I mean, that way, board members who want to research NAPB's site for model rules, or look at whatever research information they would like to gather. I think that might be very helpful.
Staff member Runyon, I appreciate the input, and I think that also honors the one of the initial and primary intents of creating this to begin with, to ensure that there's transparency in the process, and the way that we're spending our time reflects board direction. And so I appreciate that, and we can implement that. Board member Kroger has a question.
Board member Kroger, would it be possible to have this in like the weekly, maybe instead of having it as a standing agenda item, just a recap of this within the weekly emails from the ED? Like, then it is truly kind of living, perhaps, if that's allowed.
Staff member Runyon, yes, we can include, if you're asking, because I've mentioned including it, but more as kind of a text representation. If you want this particular chart in there, is that what you're asking for? You could do that.
I think maybe just like what was kind of discussed around the progress update, like you were just describing, that we could discuss obviously at a meeting, but if our agendas are tight and we're not necessarily making any huge changes to this, just as I think it already is kind of in that snapshot, but just referencing this visually perhaps could make everyone understand. And like board member President Chin said around, hey, if we see that you guys are working on something, maybe we can start doing our own due diligence to help formulate our thoughts on whatever topic you all are working on.
Staff member Runyon, I appreciate that. think what it allows us to do also is, again, in the name of transparency, is just ensure that we don't get to that 2-month mark and then surprise, here's what's behind door number 2, and then see everyone's faces kind of drop because like, oh, we were hoping you would get to this other thing and didn't cover it. So I think it would, again, allow us to be more judicious with how we spend our time and ensure it reflects board direction. So appreciate that.
Board Member Kirkbride, I just have an additional comment. I agree. I think this is high level vision. I don't think this should come back to the board frequently. I think we've voted on it. I think if there are changes, we would address it. Like if things come up, we would have those conversations and, be addressing those kinds of things as they come up. There's 2 things I would want to see. So if staff run into unexpected issues or something is going too slow or going too fast and something needs to be reprioritized, then I would expect staff would bring that to us to potentially reprioritize. So that would be one thing. And then secondly, that the board president is kind of on our behalf, ensuring that things are running, per these priority categories. And as long as they're happening within these categories and rules aren't coming to us, for example, we're not getting a meeting where we're getting things in the medium category and we're not seeing anything in the high category. As long as that's happening, I don't see why, the board would need to frequently visit this document. So in addition to Board Member Kroger's comments about some kind of high level updates, I think as long as those 2 things are happening, that's what I would want to see out of this document.
This is Board Member Chin, Board Member Kirkbride. The only thing I would say about not preferring to see more things out of the medium category rather than the high category is that depending on what rule is open, and it might touch things in any of these categories, whether they're high, medium, or low. And so there's things that just all coincide together depending on what rule is open. So it wouldn't be, staff making a choice. Well, we don't want to do these, we're going to do that. But depending on what rule is open, how it affects any of these things, not dependent on the category. Does that am I making sense at all?
Sort of. I don't see that possibility in this list too much, but sure. I agree. I agree if that scenario came up, everyone has the flexibility, yes.
Okay, but I just wanted to be open about how something might come to us, because you're not just working on one rule at a time, they're working on multiple rules at a time, so. I would propose that document also, sorry, I propose that this document also be reviewed at each strategic plan meeting. So that would be annually. Board Member Patel.
Board Member Patel, yeah, my only concern was board staff, board consultant Gary Runyon said, like, you will get shock after 2 months, right? I want to avoid that shock or surprise. And number 2, that I think pretty much, let's say with all board members, they kind of like voice the concern about cold drug storage rules has to be of high priority. And I don't want to see that rule like after 1 year, like still we didn't even started, even though it was in high priority. So I just don't want to lose this sight that what we express, all the board members, that what is our concern and which rule take priority, and then priority within the priority. So that's the only 2 things. Like I was just like wanted to make sure that I understand right before I vote on the motion.
I don't know how to respond to board member Patel, board staff Runyon.
Staff member Runyon, just highlighting again that, we can't prescribe too much rigidity to the process. And I understand, board member Patel's concerns, and I think that's one of the, advantages of employing, the kind of approach that board member Kroger and I are sharing, is just including this in the weekly ED report. That way, we of course would be open to feedback from the board or board president on behalf of the board. So incrementally, along the way, if there is an opinion of a particular board member that something is not being addressed in a timeframe they feel is appropriate, and regardless of what avenue they want to go to, through in identifying that to us, that it could be a concern that, we would hear and then implement in whatever approach we have. So I think in part, board member Patel's concern would potentially be at least partially, if not wholly, addressed by what board member Kroger is and I are proposing and including that in the weekly update, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you. No, totally. Appreciate it.
Any other comments or concerns, questions?
This is Board Member Joyce. I definitely appreciate this layout of this information in this way. In the past, we haven't had anything really like this where we can kind of have an idea of upcoming rule debate. And so being specific to these boxes of priority, it's definitely gives us an advantage to be able to look ahead and see where we're at in terms of rulemaking. And we haven't really had, I mean, this is almost like a luxury compared to what we had in previous years. Thank you for putting this together.
And staff member writing, one last thing as far as my input goes. I just wanted to thank board member Hall for sending us an action priority matrix, which is really neat. It's just a priority matrix that stratifies tasks or activities based on effort and output or impact. And we were initially planning on using a big whiteboard, a chalkboard, to kind of assist in the redistribution or analysis of these topics and where they should go. Of course, with several members remote and one absent, it wasn't feasible for this meeting, but we liked it. I think staff member Melvin's going to drop that in the Teams folder, and we certainly see value in using that in future meetings. So I just wanted to say thanks to board member Hall for that.
Looking forward to seeing that. Thank you. Thank you, board member Hall. All right, are we ready for a motion? Hearing no argument. Is there a motion to move to approve the rules policy discussion priority list as revised?
So move Board Member Joyce.
Second, board member Beeman.
And Board President Chin, yes. Board Vice President Joyce,
Yes.
Board Member Beeman,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Board Member Hemmons.
Oh, she's gone for the rest of the day. Remember, she's
Oh,
absent.
that's right. Okay, that's right. So absent, Board Member Kirkbride,
Yes.
Board Member Kroger,
Yes.
Board Member Patel.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes with Board Member Hemmons being absent. We will now receive a higher level legislative update from staff member Melvin.
Right, give me just a moment. share my screen. All right, thank you, Staff Member Melvin. I'm just gonna give a higher level, and I'll just start with, this is mailing C for those of you on the phone. This is already outdated, right? We had to notice before meeting last week. As you know, in legislative session, these items change hourly almost at this point. So I thought I would just touch on a few of the bills that are important to our agency and the practice, and then let me know if you have any questions. That sounds okay.
Sounds great.
So actually today is the deadline for bills that needed to have a work session. They needed to be completed. Today was the deadline for that, or with a successful vote to come out of committee in order to keep the bill alive. Let's start with House Bill 3045. That is the bill that authorizes the State Board of Pharmacy to require a person under investigation by the board to undergo a mental, physical, chemical dependency or competency evaluation. That bill is currently in the Senate Committee on Healthcare, and they have now scheduled a public hearing for April 15th. That will occur. So if anyone's interested in attending that, April 15th. Now let's talk about House Bill 3046, the other bill. This was the bill that clarified that a pharmacist may prescribe, dispense, and administer medications for treatment of opioid use disorder. So that bill was referred to the Addiction and Community Safety Response Committee. I think Staff Member Runyon mentioned that earlier, which is a joint committee by the order of the speaker without a recommendation as to passage. So what that means is the involved parties have been working on draft language that they are anticipating to bring forth as amendments to House Bill 2025, Senate Bill 236. So currently, again, 236 is in a joint committee. And this deadline I mentioned earlier for today does not apply to this group because it is a joint committee. We are just going to continue to track that and then provide updates through the weekly executive director report. Because more action is going to occur by the time we see you again in June. Let's see. House Bill 3830 is something we've been watching that prohibits a professional licensing board from denying issuance of an authorization issued by the licensing board to an individual based solely on the individual's immigration or citizenship status. There was a work session that was scheduled for that, but it was canceled. Something else may have happened by then. We were asked to submit a fiscal on that, and just thought I'd bring it to your attention if you weren't really watching that. And then Senate Bill 295A makes permanent a pharmacist's ability to test for and treat COVID-19. So that is amending 689-2024 Session Laws 0017, Section 15. And what that means is it's repealing that sunset that they adopted. So that sunset date is now coming out of statute if that passes. And it was referred to the speaker's desk, and that happened yesterday. Lastly, I thought I would just touch on Senate Bill 1003. There was a work session held on the 9th. There's already a number 4 amendment. This is some modifications to the Oregon Death with Dignity Act, and it has some language for our pharmacists. So we'll just keep our eyes on that and just kind of keep the board abreast of what's happening with that. That seems like the way it's reading right now is not necessarily about rules. It would just be messaging out to our pharmacists. And that's all I had today. Any questions?
None from me. Any other board member have questions? Thank you, Board Member Melvin. Board Member Staff Melvin. It was very helpful. Let's move move on to receive a financial update from staff member Shelton Flores. We'll do mailing, Ds and dog, please.
Thank you, President Chen. This is staff member Shelton Flores with a financial update for the Board of Pharmacy. And if you could just scroll down to the last page, I'm assuming that everyone had the opportunity to review this information in your packets. Okay. Last page. One page to page 5. Perfect. Thank you. So as reflected in the attached financial reports, the board continues to operate under budget across the majority of line items year to date. This reflects continued fiscal discipline and effective budget management by the board leadership and staff. The current reported 11.2 month balance does not yet include upcoming revenue from the ongoing pharmacist's license renewal cycle. These funds will further strengthen our financial position as we prepare to enter the new biennium. In addition, we are currently awaiting approval of House Bill 5028, which is under review in the Joint Committee on Ways and Means Subcommittee on Education. The outcome of this legislation will determine the board's budget allocation for the upcoming biennium and is critical to supporting our strategic initiatives. And I will continue to track and remain in contact with Chief Financial Office and Legislative Financial Office. Board staff are actively engaged in advancing key priorities, including the database modernization project and future workforce resource planning, both of which are contingent on the final approval of our budget bill. These efforts are aimed at improving operational efficiency, ensuring regulatory responsiveness, and preparing the agency to meet future demands. In conclusion, we will remain committed to sound financial stewardship and will continue to monitor revenues and expenditures closely to ensure alignment with our statutory responsibilities and long-term objectives. Back to you, President Chen.
Thank you very much, and well done. The numbers are looking good. I know when we do our budgets, we talk about variances. Are any of the budget, why we are doing well, is that, are there any staff shortages right now that would contribute to the bottom line looking better? Or are we fully staffed now?
Staff member Shelton Flores, we are fully staffed at this time.
Okay. And does this number reflect not being fully staffed for any period of time that would just make it look a little bit better right now?
No,
Just
it's not. I'm sorry. I don't think she heard yours. Oh, okay, no, sorry.
No, it did not have anything to do with it.
No, it did not.
Okay. Are there any other questions from board members?
Board member Joyce here. So typically, when does the budget get approved, like timeframe wise?
Staff member Shelton Flores. So I had a meeting earlier this week, actually yesterday. So they're looking at projections coming out possibly in June. By June 11th, they're saying that we'll receive the projection for the new biennium.
Okay, and then shortly after, the email goes out regarding fee increases, right?
That's correct.
Right. And in Ways and Means Committee, they're the ones that review the financial, what we submit.
They're the ones who review it.
You.
Any other questions?
Just to clarify, it's rulemaking that will happen. Right, so it's rulemaking that has to happen in order for the fee to change. Once they get approval from the governor's office, then it will have to go through rulemaking. So it's not just a letter, like the, there's actual rules that have to happen rulemaking process.
Okay, so for us, that will happen.
It depends on the effective date of the bill, so. Till the bill's passed and I see an effective date, I can't tell you. But once I see that date, I can tell you.
But potentially August, potentially.
I mean, for the initial part of it, right? Then the rulemaking process takes time, but nothing is. Super fast.
I think we had talked about that previously because someone had noticed that I think it's pharmacists who get licensed, everything is every 2 years. And so I think that happens in June. And so we were wondering if when they did the budget projection, if that was to that old fee for the renewals in June. And it was to that. It wasn't that we were expecting all of these licensees to have the new fee. So that was something we had discussed.
Yes, so as it stands right now, it is under the old fee. In the new biennium, it will be under the new fee.
Thank you.
The staff member Hennigan, and then the new fee would apply to any pharmacist that would be renewing late.
Well. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
So wouldn't that mean effective date July 1st?
But that's it, we go get the rule in place.
Which we'd have to have a temporal.
So. Okay.
Hey, it's something.
Thank you for asking.
But it won't be anyone who renews on time. We know that. That's the one thing we can say today. Anyone who renews on time, renews on time.
The late fee.
Late fee and a new fee. All right, any other questions for staff member Shelton Flores? Hearing none, I thank you kindly, staff member Shelton Flores, and we will keep moving forward. Issues and activities, you all have a list of our board meeting dates through 2027. And they are all in person in Portland, except for the strategic planning meetings, which are to be determined depending on several factors, budget being one of them. Rulemaking hearing dates, May 22nd, 2025, and November 25th, 2025. We are happy to announce that Governor Kotek has reappointed Public Health and Pharmacy Formulary Advisory Committee members, pharmacist Andrew Gibler and Advanced Practice Registered Nurse Catherine Hammond, starting 4/1/2025 through 4/30/2027. Congratulations, and thank you for your continued commitment to Oregonians and to this committee. I would also like to announce that the committee currently has a physician position open and is currently accepting applications. We ask that board members please spread the word to colleagues. For more information or how to apply via Workday, visit the Formulary Health, the PVAC or opportunities page on the board website. Conference meeting dates for NAPB. The 121st meeting will be May 13th through 16th in Fort Lauderdale. We already discussed our resolutions, delegate and alternate delegate. Are there any, and next is consent agenda. Is there any board discussion on the consent agenda? Board President Chin has no discussion. Board Vice President Joyce,
Nothing to add.
Board Member Beeman,
Thank-
Board Member Hall,
Nothing to add.
Board Member Hemmons is absent. Thank you. Board Member Kirkbride,
Nothing.
Board Member Kroger,
Thank you.
Board Member Patel.
Board Member Patel, nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. We need to approve the consent agenda. There's a license registration ratification report and the board meeting summary from February 2025. Is there a motion to move to approve the consent agenda as proposed?
Moved by member Beaman.
Seconded, Board Member Joyce?
Thank you. Board President Chin, yes. Board Vice President Joyce,
Yes.
Board Member Beaman,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Board Member Hemmons is absent. Board Member Kirkbride,
Yes.
Board Member Kroger,
Yes.
Board Member Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes with Board Member Hemmons being absent. This is the time when we would typically do public comment, but we did not have anyone sign up for public comment. So we will take time now for each board member to provide comments, ideas, policy discussion items for future board meetings. Board President Chin, I have nothing to add to that list. Board Vice President Joyce,
Nothing to add that we didn't previously discuss. Thank you.
right, we have the COPT noted and we'll put today's date as another date on the checklist, okay?
As well as a fee schedule, which will be discussed next February.
Yes. Board Member Beaman,
Like to add.
thank you. Board Member Hall,
Nothing new to add.
Board Member Hemmons is absent. Board Member Kirkbride,
Nothing to add today.
Board Member Kroger,
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Board Member Patel.
Board Member Patel, I just would like to put that wholesaler rule in the wish list for parking lot. Sometimes we had to revisit that one.
Okay,
Other than that, I don't have anything else. But the one thing I don't know, I feel like it's a staff delegated authority for the self-inspection form. And I think we are coming up the next self-inspection form in the June, right? Is it going to be the same or is there any new addition? Because I feel like some of the thing is repetitive and it's most of what I heard from the licensees, like it's not duplicative or does not make sense to them.
Staff Member Runyon, would you field that one?
Staff member Ackerman, so the compliance team usually works on it and it has been completed in the actual content. We just need to do all the formatting for the fillable formatting to post on the website by 5/1/2025 is our goal. Noted though, for future potential could be added to the list, the self-inspection form process. It sounds like as an agenda item potentially for a future topic is what I might be hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And this is also like, for the application too, I did fill out the outlet application and then for the renewal process. And there was, I can see like sometimes why licensee get confused with when they renew their license and the question they ask. And I hope so we can do a little bit cleaning on that part. I mean, I'm more than happy to provide the comment. I was not prepared, but I can see sometimes, like, I don't think so the licensing intent is not disclose a disciplinary action or not to tell about the case, but it's just confusing to them, like whether I have a case, whether it's a closed case, does that count as a case, whether it's in pending status. So I wish like we have a little bit cleanup on that area.
This is staff member. Oh, sorry, that is already on the policy list that is on the agenda for a board member to bring up and also as part of the board's strategic plan. So that's already been in the works for several months now. So we will continue to update you as soon as we have more information. And we can also note that it was revisited on this date on the policy list. Thank you.
Perfect. You guys are on it. Love it.
Okay, so I have Board Member Patel, I have the wholesaler rule you would like to add to the document. And then you were also requesting to add the self-inspection form.
Yeah, just look at it, or maybe we can comment, like, we don't have to go in detail, just a couple things I feel like we can do a little bit clarification for the licensee, what we meant or what the compliance department meant.
Okay, thank you. Are there any matters to be discussed by agency staff? That have to do with the Oregon Board of Pharmacy?
Staff member Onion, nothing to add.
Okay. Anyone, or staff Efremov or have anything that you had to update us on?
I apologize. We're all looking at each other and nodding our heads. No, we don't have anything further to present. Thank you.
Thank you, that's helpful. I'm not able to see the head nod so well. All right, well, we're looking at adjourning, so before we adjourn, early on a Friday, board members who took written notes before or during the board meeting, please add your name, date, and confidential if they were taken during executive session, and provide them to staff member Shelton Flores. If you would like to keep your written notes, please go to the board office with staff member Shelton Flores before you depart the building to make a copy. If you took electronic notes outside of OneDrive, email your notes to rachel.melvin@bop.oregon.gov. And is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at, is it 1:42 your time?
Motion at 1:42 PM. This is board member Beaman.
1:42 PM.
Second is board member Joyce.
So board member Beaman, board member Joyce, board member Chin, yes, board member Joyce,
Yes.
board member Beaman,
Yes.
board member Hall,
Yes.
board member Hemmons is absent, board member Kirkbride,
And
board member Kroger,
yes.
board member Patel.
Yes.
Awesome, motion passes. This meeting of the Oregon Board of Pharmacy is adjourned. Good work, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you on the flip side, and see you all next week on Teams on the staff.
Take care.
Okay, see you later.
Bye.